The IEC has had said in the past that it could be ready by the October date, that it could put in strict COVID-19 protocols. But remember that electoral parties came and said this is also about reaching the voters. And the Justice Dikgang Moseneke is saying yes, electoral parties, political parties should be allowed to get as close to their voters as possible. We'll bring you some more analysis now, because how far does that go? I mean, by next February, what if we're in the fourth wave? What if parties are not allowed to have those huge gatherings, have those rallies that they used to? Is that a thing of the past? Do we temper those expectations? But right now, Judge Dikgang Moseneke is saying that it would be free and fair at this point to postpone until next February. He doesn't want to let this go much longer than that. Joining us now is Thembelani Mazibuko. He's a researcher at the Electoral Institute for Sustainable Democracy in Africa. Mr. Mazibuko, thank you for being with us. What do you think of the report today?
Well, it was a very well written and very well reasoned report. What I did notice is that the learned judge, did put a lot of emphasis, and understandably so, because it is a public health situation, did put a lot of emphasis on the advice of the numerous medical professionals who did submit reports to the commission. So it was a very well reasoned conclusion at the end.
Yeah. And I just raised this point. He said that parties should be able to get to their voters as close as possible. But should we temper those expectations about big rallies? I mean, we don't even know what the situation is going to be at the start of next year.
Yes. So in postponing the decision, the judge was very much concerned about the issue, because the judge is of the view that in order to have a free and fair election, there needs to be as much campaigning as possible, different types of campaigning, online as well as on-site. The judge also made the point that smaller parties, which don't have as much resources as the bigger parties, are especially relying on the type of face-to-face contact that have traditionally been part of South African elections. So in postponing the election, the judge did take into account contact and door knocking, especially for the smaller parties, as well, starting from this election, Francis, independent candidates.
So this is a constitutional issue. What happens now with this report, which is essentially a recommendation, I think?
Yes, that is correct. Political parties, chief among which the Democratic Alliance, have made the point that this report is not binding, and it is not binding. So it is up to now the courts, I think the electoral court, to decide in terms of what should happen going forward. But this report is not binding, and we'll see the courts will have to decide in terms of what to happen. And yes, it is a constitutional issue. Elections must happen 90 days after the expiry of the term of council. But the judge did make a point that these are unprecedented times. It is not only a South African issue, but it's a global issue as well.
All right, so the courts have to say yay or nay to this. I was thinking maybe there's an interesting development here. We know the rollout of vaccines in South Africa has been slow, although that has been picking up substantially, and we did very well yesterday. We'll look at that a bit later in the show. But the slow start has always been seen as an economic issue. You know, our economy can't get going. Is it now a democracy issue as well?
It is an economic issue, it's a democracy issue, it's a public health issue, it's a social issue. However, it must be noted that in many ways it is out of our hands. That is why President Cyril Ramaphosa, as well as India, as well as other developing nations, have asked countries in the West, countries like the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, to give us the formula in order, because we do have the manufacturing capacity, countries like South Africa and India and even Rwanda, to manufacture the vaccines. So hence, the president has been asking for the formula. So in many ways, the government's hands are tied when it comes to the issue of vaccination. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Thembelani Mazibuko, researcher at the Electoral Institute for Sustainable Democracy in Africa. Also welcoming the report by Justice Dikgang Moseneke today.